your face because it's very close up, so all you see is your face and some of the shapes that your arms create. So top of your head slightly this way, away from the column, the top of your head. Now turn your face more towards me, slightly. Beautiful, just like that. Excellent. Now try smiling. Try harder. Teeth.
To capture
Beautiful.
the image in the camera, or create the image in the camera, and just use simple retouching and very slight enhancement to improve that image once it's in Photoshop. A lot of people nowadays just go out and randomly, they don't plan the photographs. There's huge variations of skin tones. There's huge variations in the tone of the skin, and they go into Photoshop and they just spend hours adjusting and trying to get skin tones to match. When we are done with a session, the skin tone from one area to another area matches almost identical, with just slight variations and levels that we have to do to make the tone match. That's done because we either white balance often if we're using natural light, or in most of our photographs you saw in the video, we use reflected sunlight, which gives us the same color temperature from scene to scene. This image also, the background softness and everything else in it was created in camera. Okay, I planned that as I shot it. I didn't have to bring it into Photoshop. Now, the one thing about this image, the graffiti on the column that she's leaning against, doesn't really bother me. They're seniors. It's kind of a cool thing. It's a contrast to the soft background. It gives a little more of a fashion quality that goes with her pose. Now, as we start this, some of the things we're going to do, okay, we go in. Now, as you'll notice as we're doing this, okay, this is my personal laptop, and it has CS2 in it, okay. CS2 does everything that I need done in the images the way I shoot them, okay, because basically Photoshop to me has replaced the negative retouchers of years ago and the artist to some degree, because even back then I learned to shoot and get it on the film, not rely on the artist, because they charge a huge amount of money to fix all of my mistakes. So in learning that way, Photoshop is just a simple editing tool for enhancing the small things that we can't take out in the studio. Now with this, there are many ways to do everything in Photoshop. For us, when we're adjusting the tones, we use levels, and all of you know this, so I'm not going to go through it. The outer bars adjust contrast and tone. Middle bars are for the mid-tones. Basically, it looks a little flat, so we're just going to improve that a little bit. The second thing, the coloration looks nice, okay? I personally, especially on fair-skinned people, do increase the saturation a little bit. Now, like I said, there are different ways. Some people use curves, some people use all kinds of different tools to accomplish the same thing. But again, I learned it my way, and I've learned to do it very quickly. The average image, it takes less than a minute for us to retouch, color balance, and get ready to print. That's something that, you know, not many studios have, and this is going to take obviously a lot longer because I'm explaining as we go. Now, some of the things with this image, okay, there's a few things that we're going to deal with. She has bags under her eyes slightly, okay, smooth out the skin a little bit. This little bump in her elbow will smooth out. I will leave the moles because that's part of her. The hair, these little hairs up here don't bother me. Okay, people have stray hairs. Now, if she were against a very dark background and these were more noticeable, I would take them down. But those are things that are natural looking. If you perfectly manicure her hair and take away every one of these flyaways, it's going to give it more of an unnatural look because no one has hair like that. The first thing we're going to do with this image is we're going to put a vignette around it. Now, when we're working in the lab we have a whole set of actions to do all of this for us. We have two vignette actions, one for darkening the edges and softening the background. This background is so soft that we don't need to soften it actually, so we're just going to darken the edges slightly. And like I said, there are a lot of ways to do this. It's just I prefer images with a darker edge, and I'm doing this as we're talking. I would probably bring this in a little more. Okay, now when you're feathering it, you do your selection tool, you feather it at 250 pixels, you draw your circle around her. Now me, if I were doing this and not talking as I'm doing it, I would have brought it a little bit closer to darken this edge too. You never want to vignette the skin, so that's one of the things of this, it's just the corners. Now, we have her basically set up as she's going to be. This is color corrected for our printer, which is a net printer. Now we just go in and do the retouching. When you're doing retouching, everyone that I've ever seen who we've started in the lab enlarges the image so large that, you know, they see every little pore, every little imperfection. Okay, now that is ideal if you're retouching for a 20 by 24 or a 24 by 30. But with seniors, a lot of times, you know, they're just ordering a wallet from the pose, or some wallets, or 4x5s, and they may order a lot of them, but it doesn't need to be that critically retouched to where you're retouching every little pore, every little blemish. A lot of these things will never be seen. Now, as we retouch the skin, I personally hate diffusing the skin. A lot of programs nowadays, a lot of photographers highlight the certain areas on the mask of the face and they diffuse it. When you do that, okay, it softens too much. That's the one complaint I hear so much about photographers and the way they retouch, is their skin looks unnatural and plastic. That's because they use diffusion and it just softens everything so much there's no detail left in it. I believe that you should retouch by hand. Okay, that's why I still use CS2 and I use a cloning stamp. When we're cloning, okay, we're blending. We're not removing piece of, you know, like a stamp to where we're just retouching a zit. We're blending it off to make it flow. It's, to me, a little more artistic. It's the way that if you painted, you would do it. You're softening and blending. You're not just removing individual zits. So when we're here, some of the things, I always work at a 23% opacity. Would it be different if it were 24, 22? No. Would it be different if it were 35? Yes. Okay, I want 23, to me, just works out well. We start off with the areas under the eyes and we just start in. Now, one of the things that we do, I do this a lot. I don't do our editing for the studio, but I do my editing for all of my images for the books and for any posts that I do. So I'm using Photoshop quite a bit, and I'm very accustomed to matching what we do on one side with the other. When you deal with the eyes especially, you have to make sure that if the girl has bags under her eyes, you can't remove them. You have to soften them, but you have to soften them equally. The same thing as we start to enhance the eyes. If you enhance the catch lights on one side and they're brighter than the catch lights on the other, that eye is more predominant, and it makes the eye with the less predominant catch lights seem smaller and less predominant. So you always have to make sure to do that. That's like on this side. The light here eliminated a lot of the bag, whereas on this side it has a little more. So here we'll just blend that away, but we're still going to leave a little of the line so she looks like herself. Now coming down here, again, we just take these off, and I'm going to do this fairly quickly without talking because I don't want this to take all day. Now, here, and again, we're blending, but we're blending to achieve a softer skin, not to make her look plastic. So here, now, that's obviously something, okay, yeah, just like that, more to that eye. Now there's certain areas that you always have to retouch and check. Basically, the areas under the nose and around the mouth, because our lighting or portrait lighting generally comes from above, especially when working outside, it tends to leave dark shadows under the nose in the little grooves and nooks and crannies of the skin, which it helps to just very softly put in some flesh tone to take care of that. Now, although we did this very slowly, okay, that's pretty much the extent of the retouching that we would do on her face. Okay, now it's very much improved. We're going to take down the bulge on her elbow using the same technique of just blending that little shadow created by the bump away. And it's there, but it's a lot softer. So that's one of the things. You go back, one of the things I do personally is I go through and I view my retouching enlarged, but then I also make it smaller. A lot of times imperfections in your retouching, to where there's unevenness of anything, you can see it more clearly at a smaller size because it's made more noticeable. Now with this arm is fine. I don't mind the moles. Okay, the next thing is her eyes. With eyes, I don't mess with them a lot. Okay, basically what I do is in light eyes or dark eyes, it doesn't matter. I want to lighten slightly the color so you notice it more. And it's kind of a two-step process. What we do is a very low opacity with a dodge tool, and we lighten the eyes just like this usually. And with this, it's a lot towards the bottom and the shadow side of the frame. Now with the whites of her eyes, you can do the same thing if that's something you want to do, but if we're going to do the whites of the eyes, I don't want them neon white because no one has neon whites of the eyes. You also have to be careful, especially outdoors, of catch lights in the whites of the eyes, because if you intensify those catch lights, it's not good. Now once we're done, we brighten the eyes a little bit, then we go to the sponge tool, which is here, like this, and we go to saturate. Now when you saturate the color, you're just bringing out more of the blue color because you've just lightened it, and it makes the eyes stand out just a little bit more. Now what I'll usually do too is I'll come down here, because a lot of times, especially this young lady didn't really wear, she had a very light lipstick on, and it's not really that predominant, so I'll kind of add a little saturation to the lips just to bring out a little color, a little gloss. Now the saturate tool, and as you enlarge this, like I said, this retouching is for anything up to like a 5x7 probably. There are little imperfections here on the skin, but those are not going to show, and I'm not going to retouch everything like that, for every image, because it's not going to show. And that's one of the things you have to learn in your retouching is what's important and what's not. What degree do you need to retouch? And I think many of the over retouched images are because every photographer enlarges the face so big and then retouches as if it's going to be a 30x40 that it has that plastic quality, to where it's just completely, all of the things that make her face unique in her are gone. So with this, okay, now the sponge tool also works really well as a tooth whitener, because one of the things that we hear from people, as you want the skin to look healthy and warm, a lot of photographers add warmer colors. But the problem is that as you add warmer colors to the skin to make her look like she has a beautiful tan and to come out really well, you're also adding colors to the teeth and the whites of the eyes. So a lot of times we'll use the desaturate tool and on a very low opacity again, and just come in and kind of do each tooth to where it doesn't get any yellowish quality. It just kind of goes through. At this time, and I mean it sounds disgusting, but at this time I'll also, it's a close-up photograph and the person doesn't brush their teeth really well, sometimes they have obvious plaque on their teeth, which I also remove. Now when we're done, okay, that is the way that she looks as the image goes to printer, okay.